Hello. How you doing?
Good evening.
Not bad. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Back at school.
Yeah, how's
back
it feel?
at work.
Back in a suit every day.
And
strange, isn't it?
tight. I'm not going to lie. I had to go shopping Friday after work. I had to get something slightly larger just for the time being.
Mate, it'll be fine
until we get back to exactly. Yeah. I can go even bigger after that.
Yeah, it's been exciting being back at school and seeing all the kids again. It's been really nice to see them and have a chat with them, see how they're getting on and stuff. It's obviously a very anxious time for everybody, but it feels really good to be back and seeing everybody again. That's for sure.
Yeah, it does indeed. It's nice to see good numbers of kids back in school, I must admit. And just the noise and the buzz around the building feels like a school again, which is great.
And seeing real people, like, we haven't seen each other in person since March, and now you can't mute me when I'm talking to you. I
didn't realise how good looking you are in person.
Oh, do you know what, mate?
I thought it was a filter.
You thought it was what, sorry?
I thought it was a filter.
Oh, damn. Well, sorry to disappoint, mate.
Well, good evening, everyone. Numbers are gradually picking up. Obviously, it's our first show on a Sunday night. We've had to move because Ben works on a Thursday evening in one of his many roles. So Sunday evening it is, and as it's the first Sunday of September, I think. I really don't know what day it is, but
yeah.
We thought it'd be a good idea to do a kind of back to school special, because we're back to school and obviously our friends in the States are back to school, but some of us are there in person and some of us are there virtually. So we just thought we'd go through a few bits and pieces that people might find useful. And then straight after our show tonight at 8 o'clock is the Global GEG Mental Health Staff Room, which is fantastic and has been a real lifesaver throughout lockdown, and we've made some great connections and great friends through that. So please do drop into the Global Gig staff room afterwards and just say hi and let off some steam and share some ideas and thoughts about how things have been going. But should we make a start, Ben?
Let's do it.
Cool. Okay, let's get your screen on then.
Yeah, I'll just pull myself up now. Give me a second.
So we're going to start off just having a look at Google Classroom, right?
That's it. Yeah, we're going to have a look at my top tips on how to set up a classroom from scratch and my sort of top settings, I suppose, top things to do when you get a new Google Classroom.
Yeah.
So, I know you're going to have some excellent tips as well, Dan. So do chip in as and when you need to as well. So Welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us, as Darren said earlier. So I'm going to show you sort of my top tips on when you first create a classroom, what I think you should do. And this is going to be very personal to each and every one of you, how you set up your classroom. I'm going to show you how I would do it. So
first, increase the size of your screen a bit so it's bigger for people.
Yeah, is that better?
No, because we're only seeing it on about 3/4 screen at the moment. That's better.
Yeah. Okay. That's right then. All good. Okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to Google Classroom. So classroom.google.com, or using your little waffle tool and locating the Classroom tool. So you'll get to your landing page. Looks like this. So some of you may have sync services in place for you to sync classrooms across from your timetable. But if you don't, then you can just easily create one yourself and set up your settings from there. The settings are going to be the same in every classroom. So what I'm going to show you here, you would have to apply to each and every classroom, as each classroom would be different. But it's just as easy to create one yourself here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your little plus icon up here and create class. So you're going to be asked for a few things here, like your class name and section, subject, room, etc. The only one that's required is your class name. So we're going to go with short and sweet for the purpose of this demo. Oh, not short 7 sweet. That doesn't work, does it? Short and sweet there. You can put a section and subject in if you want to, or your room number if you like. You don't have to, but for the purposes I will. And we can go back and change this at any point if needed as well. So don't feel like once you've set this, it's in stone and you can't change it. You can go back at a later point. So once we've got all that set, we're going to hit the create button in the bottom right. And this is where we'll be given in effect, our Google Classroom. So it will take just a few seconds to load. But once it does, we've got a few.
Apologies if I seem distracted a little bit, Ben. One of our chickens is trying to escape into next door's garden. So my wife trying to get it down off the fence at the moment.
Casual, happens all the time. All the time in the UK. So.
You work with children and animals, they say, don't they?
That's it. I've got to say I've not heard that one before, but I'll each to their own. Once you're into this page here, guys, this will be your landing page for your Google Classroom. So you can see this is short and sweet at the moment, and I've got a few different areas on the page, which I'm sure all of you would have seen before, like your stream, classwork, people, and marks, or grades if you're in America. But we're going to have a quick look at your settings tab up here. It's a little settings cog in the right corner. I'm going to click on that and just have a look at some of the things I think we should be setting in our classes. And again, this is personal to you, but I'm just going to show you how I would do things. All right. So if you go into that setting there, you can go in and change your name, as I said earlier, and add a class description, a section, and room subject like we did when we first created our classroom. So you can go in and change that at a later point if you need to. But if we scroll down to general here, we've got lots of different options. This is part of the new update in Google Classroom, actually, for invitation codes. So before, there was only an option for students to join via a class code, which we could display on the screen. So it would be in your class banner up here, and you could pop that up to make it bigger, and students would join a class using this link here. Now, that's all well and good. That gives students ownership of their own classrooms. It gets them into the habit of typing in these things and, as I say, taking ownership of them getting into their courses. But for whatever reason, if students are struggling with that, you can actually send them an invitation link now. And you can just click the little copy button over here, and that will copy to your clipboard, and you can email it to students to join directly using that code as well. So that's a new part of Classroom that I've just released. And I think that's going to make it very easy for students that maybe struggle to type things in, or maybe if you want to speed up the process a little bit, even I think it'd be a great way to get people into your classroom and make sure you don't miss anybody as well, which is really good. Now onto the settings bit here. So the stream, it defaults to have students can post and comment on your stream, and this might be great if you're doing things like a life skills Google Classroom, for example, or a religious educational Google Classroom. But if you're doing something for digital skills or modern foreign language, and you want them to You want to post only announcements that you make on the class stream and let students discuss in the comments of the stream or via email. You might want to turn this to only teachers can post and comment. Now, I personally do that. I always change it to only teachers can post or comment, purely because I think the stream page should be for announcements they need to see, rather than them saying, hello, I've had a chicken burger for dinner, for example. I think it's important that they see the things they need to see in that area, and they can chat on all their social medias and other stuff that they have, or via emails that we have set up for our students. So that's personally something I do. I don't know if you do the same, Darren, for any of you.
If I'm honest, I tend to, with students that are not used to Google Classroom, I tend to turn the commenting off altogether at the start with until I'm happy they're confident with it. And then I will chop and change between post and comment or just comment, depending on if we're in class, I tend to just let them comment. If we're working remotely, I tend to do, if we're in class, I'll do post and comment if there may be sharing ideas. If we're working remotely, I tend to do just can comment on a post, because then you've got a little bit more control over it. And also they can't then post outside of working hours as easily. So I tend to go that way.
So that's a really good point, actually, because I think I've probably always gone with a student teachers can only post and comment. And actually, looking back, that's probably one of the mistakes, actually. I think students should be able to comment on posts because they can ask for your support and ask questions to their peers, actually. So I think that might be a better way to go, actually. So having students can only comment on the stream, on posts you make, I think is probably the way forward, actually, for me personally. And classwork on the stream, I think it's a bit of a hidden gem, actually, this setting, because by default, when you have a Google Classroom, I haven't got anything in this classroom to show you right now. Let me save the settings and just show you. At the moment, I've got nothing in this classroom, so it's completely empty at the moment. But in stream, by default, if I was to post a comment here to my students saying, "Hi everyone, check out the classwork page for today's work," for example, I need an apostrophe there. So I'll put a comment on there. So that'll be my announcement to my students. Now, if I was to put a piece of classwork in here now, just create a random assignment just for a second, and just assign it just for argument's sake, and go back to my stream, you'll now see that I have my announcements and my classwork appearing on the stream. And especially for first-time users of Google Classroom, this might be really quite confusing for them, I think, seeing that they've got a classwork page at the top or classwork page at the top, but they're seeing their classwork appear here with their messages from the teacher. I think that's a little bit confusing. So I always tend to point my students directly to classwork to find all of their work. They'll find everything they need inside the classwork tab at the top. And I keep stream just for announcements, and you can actually manually do that within your settings. You can actually enforce that. So if you go to the classwork on the stream setting here, it currently says show condensed notifications. That means it will show smaller versions of your work that you post as well as your announcements. Now, I just tend to go in and hide notifications. Or equally, you could go the other way and show attachments and details, which will show you the full assignment plus all of your announcements. But as I say, I always tend to point my students directly to the classwork page, where it's a little bit more organised and better laid out for them to see exactly what they're doing by topic, the due date, etc., rather than seeing it on the stream page. So I always tend to put hide notifications on there. But I don't know if you have any sort of preference on that, Darren, as well. But that's definitely what I do.
Yeah, I always hide the notifications. I just want classwork in classwork, message in stream, and that's it.
And it just tidies it up as well, doesn't it? It just makes it feel like a clutter-free classroom. And we all know from being in a physical classroom, a clutter-free classroom is generally better for our students, isn't it?
Yeah. And what better place to find your classwork than in classwork?
I know. It's almost like they plan these sort of things,
Isn't it?
It's like they had a meeting to plan that, and it works. It's good. So There's a few more in here, just to give you the heads up. But there's guiding summaries. If you're working at a trust level or a multi-academy, lots of schools within a smaller trust, for example, or even independent schools, I think guiding summaries are really powerful to use if you've got permission from your parents to do so. I think it just gives parents individual summaries of their student for each Google Classroom they're in. So whether they have or haven't completed work, and especially during remote learning, that's when we turned this on as a trust of 58 schools, we saw a massive increase in participation in terms of their parents were seeing they weren't doing the work. They'd say they were doing it, they're on the computer, but they must have been playing games or watching Netflix, whatever else they were doing. But once we turned this on, and parents were kept in the loop about what's going on, we saw a huge jump for in terms of participation in lessons. So if you haven't got that turned on, maybe speak to your IT guy or lady, see if you can get that turned on for your school. It's been a really powerful tool for us. And the last one, really, I'm not going to go through marking because I don't use it personally. For the Meet integration here, I think this was brought back in about April, and I've made loads of changes and loads of updates to Meet, as most of you will know, across the last 6 or 7 months. So, it's now integrated within Google Classroom, which gives you a unique link specific for your classroom. And if you haven't sort of generated a Meet link before, you just click on Generate Meet Link at the top there. And automatically then it turns on the visibility to students. So you get a unique link here. And if I click save on there now, you'll see in my top banner in the classroom, I've got a Meet link, which acts as a hyperlink. So I can just hover over that, and so can students, and that takes them straight into a Google Meet. So I can have that toggled on or off for students to see at any time. So if I was doing a Meet with students, I'd turn it on. Equally, if I'd finished the Meet and didn't want them to join afterwards, just toggle that switch off. You can reset the code for whatever reason if students have copied it and getting in after you've left. You can reset it after you Meet if you want to. And just click save there, and then they can't get back into that Meet. It locks them out of that Meet. It closes that Meet down once you reset the link there. So you don't have to worry about students having the link after you've left because it will kick them out. So, there's sort of the settings page there, but just a few other top things I think I could give you that I think have worked really well with my students is things like organising your classwork page. This is really important because this is where they're going to come to see all of their work potentially for the whole year. So this is where you might want to set up your Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 if that's what you're doing, or you might want to set up for me in music. When I was teaching music last year, I'd set up topics. So we had world music, then we had a rhythm and tempo topic, which students would work on. So I'd create topics for each one of those, and then the work could be in the right place under each topic. And then I'd make sure each piece of work was at the top. So I'm aware of, I'm talking quite a lot there. So I'm going to try and show you how to put that in action now. So I'm going to go to create and go to topic here. Now for short and sweet, I'm just going to do back to school here, because that's our session today. So I'm going to go back to school. And another nice touch here, if you're using Mac, you can use emojis on here. But if you're using Chromebook or Windows, there is extensions you can use for this as well. But I'm just going to use it, show you the Mac one for the time being. I'm just going to put in there back to school and just put a party emoji. There we go, party and a tip.
Every day's a party at school, right?
It is. We know it. So I'm just going to put that in there and then click add. So what that'll do is that'll create me a topic with the emojis in. So you can see that just there. And I think that really brightens it up, having emojis within your topics and assignments as well. It just makes it a lot easier for students to see. It makes it look quite colourful, I think, and it really draws attention, student learners' attention in if they're visual learners rather than just reading very, very plain text. So I tend to do that with all of my classes, to be honest. Might be a bit over the top sometimes, but that's just me. So I'd have all my topics set out in advance. So I might put in here, we did a moat session last week, so we'll go with moat, and I'm going to put a purple, want some purple colour somewhere, don't we? See if we can find something oh, there you go, purple love heart, that would do.
Oh, always.
So we can go with Moat there. So I'm going to break down my my learners' outcomes or topics by using topics here, and I can drag and drop these in any order I need to, depending whether back to school was first or I want them to be working on that now, and Moat was an older topic, or if I want it to be that the top will be the first topic we do and we work down, they have to scroll down the page. I personally like to put the current topic right at the top. Less scrolling, less clicks for the students, less chance of them getting distracted and disengaged. Have things very simple for them. So I'm going to put my back to school at the top. And I just think this really does brighten up and make things a lot easier for students to see, especially if, as I said before, if they're visual learners. I think having a bit of colour in there, not only will make you look quite cool as a teacher because you're using emojis and they think we live under rocks and don't use emojis or anything else, like any cool things, I guarantee most of the other teachers in your school won't be doing it. So you're going to stand out, and the students like that. So that's one thing I personally do. And another thing, there's another video on YouTube. I'm not gonna do that now because I want Darren to have his chance in a second as well. But creating your own Bitmoji banners, there's a craze about it. Everyone's doing it, or even animated banners. So I can show you one of each. So I've got a Bitmoji banner here. So I've got Welcome to Digital Skills, which I created using Google Drawings. And again, I have a YouTube video on that, and I'm sure there's loads of other ones out there as well. And also I've got a animated Bitmoji one here for music that I used last year. So again, I created this one using Google Slides actually and WeVideo. Sorry, not WeVideo, Tool Tweets. But again, this is something to make you stand out as a teacher, and it will take a little bit of time to get right if you're picking an OCD like me. But it's definitely worth doing. The students really love this. I got a comment saying, "So you're trying to be too cool now," in one of my classes, which I thought, I'm still fairly young. I'm pretty cool. But, all the kids are having a bit of a laugh and joke about me putting my animated self in a banner. So, get the students having a bit of a chat in your classroom as well, which is really nice. So definitely give it a go. You can't go wrong. You've got to be personal. It's got to be personal to you. And I think both of our mottos really, Darren, isn't it? Just click about, give it a go.
Yeah,
it doesn't work one way, give it a go another way.
Exactly. And your Google Classroom is exactly the same as your physical classroom. It's your space. You lay it out how you want to, and you get used to a way that works for you. And different people are going to do different things. But,
that's it. I talk through the things that I personally like in my classroom here, but you guys might like something completely different, and that's fine because that's your space. And we all have different tastes in how we want things to run, how we like things in our own classroom. So that's what I love about the whole of G Suite. Really, it's very personal, isn't it? You can do a lot of things that work for you, and it doesn't have to apply to everybody else. No,
that's it. I'm just going to share. While we're on the subject of classroom, I'm just going to share my screen actually, Ben, because I'm going to just share with everyone a little tip that I picked up about a week ago, and I didn't know previously or hadn't thought about, but I'm definitely going to use this year. So I'm here on my demo class, and I'm just going to go back into that settings page that you looked at initially. I'm right down the bottom here to the mark scheme area. And where you've got mark categories, what you'll notice here is I've set up homework, remote learning, and in-class as mark categories.
Okay.
I've given them all a score of 100, and then I've just saved that. And what that allows me to do, if I go back to my classroom, even on topics that I've already posted, if I, for example, took a particular, this one was a starting point quiz, I can go back into this and I can edit this starting point quiz on angles, and I can now add the category to that. So if I did this one as remote learning, I might want to remember in my mark book and looking back on it, actually, this was one we did in class together. This is one that the students worked independently on with remote learning over a meet or whatever, or this is one that they've done purely as homework on their own. So if it was something that we worked through together as remote learning, I might assign it to remote learning and save it. And the really good thing about that is it updates the point value. But when you go into your mark book, what you'll notice, or your grade book, whatever it's called, is that the categories are then stored.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
You can see that's a homework. That was a remote learning task. I've not done it for the rest of them because I've not long found out about this as a as a way of doing things. But
I
really,
didn't know about that either. So
yeah,
I mean, we're starting fresh this week with all
yeah,
of our students back, and once we have our sync done,
yeah,
I'm going to do that. Actually, that's a
absolutely.
good way of tracking actually afterwards, isn't it? Seeing how
Yeah,
much homework you've set and what's in class, what's at home, and then look at the progress from both.
exactly. And just to use another example, all you've got to do is come to the bottom of the mark categories here, click mark category, and then you might put, for example, Unit 1, because you're working on a BTEC style course or something like that. And then you might also have a Unit 2 or a Unit 3. And then you can assign the individual assignments all the way through to the right units. So it's easy for you and for the students to see in the grade book what unit that particular task belonged to. So really, really useful.
That's amazing. I didn't know that, and I think that really just goes to show that we're all still learning every day.
Oh, absolutely. And it's I just see who was it? Catherine's asking, can you still use the rubric? Yeah, it doesn't affect the rubric at all. It's just the naming of the assignment essentially. So it's a really good way of keeping it organised, not just for you, but for other people as well who want to look at it. You're sharing it with your line manager. It's not just a whole group of marks that don't really mean anything. It can be, look, this is what they're scoring in Unit 1, this is what they're scoring in Unit 2, and so on. So that's a really useful thing to do there. All right.
And I've just chucked something in the chat as well for, I believe it was Pilly that asked for
the keyboard.
The keyboard. Yeah, so I've just dropped a Chrome extension, which you can actually put on your Chromebooks and Windows devices, as long as using, and Mac actually, if you're using Chrome. Yeah. So you can actually use emojis direct from there if you can't bring it up using your own keyboard. So definitely make sure to get there and download that.
All right, brilliant. Cheers, Ben.
Darren.
Got the rest then. And I'll take over the verbal diarrhea, as it's called. So we'll have a look at Google Calendar. And the reason we're going to look at Google Calendar is obviously we're aware that we've got viewers that are watching all over the world, and some people are looking at teaching in class, and some people are looking at remote learning, and some people are hybrid. But one of the things you might be considering doing is something like office hours at some particular point, maybe after school, in terms of offering opportunities for people to drop in and find out information. Or you might be wanting to set up conferencing with parents so that you can have regular contact. So we're just going to have a quick look at appointment slots in Google Calendar, because that's a really easy way to set up bookable appointments for parents or for students or both, to be able to book in a specific time to meet with you. So I've just got my calendar here, and I'm going to say, for example, that next week on the 10th, there's a bit of a welcome. Actually, I'll do it on the Friday. I know I've got a couple of free periods. So from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock, I'm just going to drag that out there. I'm going to make this my office hours, and I'm going to make them bookable appointments. And you'll notice here that I've got the option of event, out of office, or appointment slot. So I'm just going to click appointment slots there, and I get the choice of the duration of the slots. Okay, so I'm going to make them let's make them a 10-minute appointment. Okay, and I can either save them straight away, or I can go to more options. So I'm going to go to more options. Okay, I've gone 10 minutes just so that we can see how it all fits into a short period, but you can choose any period you like. Okay, now you might want to put a location in there, but you don't really need to if it's virtual. And you'll notice here that you've got this calendar's appointment page, and this is the bit that you need to share with the parents or the students so that they can book. The description is really just for you. So you can click on this calendar's appointment page, and that will open up for you in Google Calendar. And you can see it opens up on the current day. So we just need to advance to next week. There we go. And here's our office hours on Tuesday. My Friday ones haven't come through. Why is that? Because I didn't save them. That's why. There we go. Let's just refresh that. So go forward a page. There we go. So here's our office hours on Friday. And you can see in that 2-hour slot, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 appointments that anyone who's got access to this calendar can book. And all they've got to do is to click on any of these are given ones and just decide when they want to change them. So they can say, right, this is office hours. They can book an appointment description to discuss Ben's progress, for example. Okay.
Not very good.
And then I'll just save that. And what you'll notice is you can either view that in Google Calendar or you can stay there as the person booking. But you can see that that's now been blocked out. 3:30 has been booked out to discuss Ben's progress with me. And if I go into my calendar, because remember this is the appointments calendar, if I go into my calendar, I should also see, there we go, that one has been booked out. And it will show me that this one is to discuss Ben's progress. Okay, so the next person to come in and look at the calendar can't book that because it's already been taken, but can book another one and then can say, for example, feedback on maths for whatever. Okay, and they can book a separate appointment and they can't then worry, or they don't have to worry about setting up clashes and things like that. So really easy to do. It pulls straight through into your calendar and theirs if they want to. But it's also really easy to cancel if you need to. So for example, as the person who set the appointment up, I can now go back to this. If I want to, this is dead easy for me to, there we go. It won't let me do it. That's typical, isn't it?
I think it's just where am I right in saying, Darren, that to book an appointment, you do need a Gmail account or a Google email to do that? Yeah,
I think it's because I'm doing this on my domain. I haven't set them to allow people to delete them, but on our Skool one, for example, they can.
Yeah.
But I can go in as well, and I can edit them, and I can change it, and I can move it if I need to. So if they contact me and say, "Look, we booked for 3:30, but we can't make that," well, then I can change that if I want to from 3:30 to sort of 3:45, 4 o'clock, and I can change that accordingly. And they will get the update as well. So really simple way of setting up bookable appointments if you feel you need to, either for students or for parents, but only the people that set up the appointments can actually go in, or the people that are invited can go in and edit them and delete them. So yeah, if the students set an appointment, they could cancel it, but then, you do the same if you went to the doctor's or the dentist. You weren't going to be able to make it, you cancel it, and then someone else can have that appointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
A really useful way of using calendar if you want to stay in touch with people and keep that communication going. All right. Back to you, Ben.
Right. I'm going to try and cut the verbal diarrhea this time. So I'm just going to take us through how to use the slides Q&A feature. I don't know if my screen's on screen. I can't see it.
Yeah,
so I'm just going to, as I say, show you how to use the Q&A feature, which I'll be honest, I didn't know about till lockdown, really, because I've never had to use it. And Darren did a video on YouTube about it, which is really good. If you haven't looked at that, I'm going to go over it very briefly today, but he goes a bit more in depth on how to use that with Google Meet. But I think it's really good to use with students, especially in a remote situation, because it prevents the whole safeguarding thing being an issue, seeing into students' homes and with cameras on and that sort of thing. But I think it can be really good for broadcasting live streams like this, or doing training with your trust, or even in the classroom for students that aren't necessarily comfortable with raising their hand and asking questions in front of the peers. This is a way that they can do it themselves. So normally we'd go in and present a presentation using the present button up here in Google Slides, but there is a list. There's this little down arrow here, and you have presenter view, present from beginning, and present on another screen. So I'm actually going to go into presenter view here, which will pop up a new sort of pop-up over here. So the moment you can see I've got the view over here of welcome to EEL's Digital Creator for my school. But I've got this little pop-up box, and I've got speaker notes if I've got any, and I've got the audience tools here. So what I tend to do with this is I'll make my box here a little bit smaller, move it across just like that, and I have my speaker notes over to one side. So what I'll do is just line it up. So when I click on the page here, I've got this little overlay. So I've got the option here to continue a recent Q&A or start a new Q&A. So you can start a new one for each group if you're using the same presentation with more than one group, for example. So I'm going to go with start new at the moment, which will create its own sort of link for people to use. And it says you can accept questions from where. So I've got it set to, it's locked within my domain. So only people within my domain can access this link and ask questions directly to me whilst I'm presenting. So you can open that up and have it to anybody. But if you're using it in school, I'd definitely recommend keeping it just locked onto your trust for security reasons. And you also see that that then pops up above my presentation. So as I'm presenting to my class, whether, as I say, this is ideal in remote situations, they can type in this link up here and they can ask you directly a question. So what I'm going to do in live time now is I'm actually going to get out my phone here and I'm actually going to ask this a question live on air to see how it comes through. So you're going to have to give me just 30 seconds to put this link in. But we're going to ask a question about a digital creator course. So I'm going to type it in on my phone here, slides.app.goo/AUDRH. So I'm going to put that up on my phone, and I do need to log into a Google account to do that. So I'm logging into my domain. Let it just do all its thing. So now you're not going to be able to see it very well, but I can now ask a question. So I'm just going to say on here, what is EEL digital creator? Click submit, and you'll see straight away how that pops up in my little box over here. So it tells me who it's from, when it was asked, and it also gives me the option to present it on screen. So if your students ask a really good question that you'd like to answer and think it'd be relevant for everyone else to see it, hit the present, and it puts their question on the screen. So it says what the question is and the name. It does it in a really smart way as well. I think it looks really quite professional how that pops up like that. And the best bit about it is once you've finished doing your presentation, done your thing, you're going to close off of your speaker notes and escape your presentation. You can actually go back and see all the questions that have come through on your Q&A history from every single time you've used it. So if you go to tools here and go to Q&A history, I can see all the times I presented this particular presentation. So I can see I presented it at 6:40 today with no questions. But if I go to the 1934 one, I can see that B. Moore has asked, what is EEL Digital Creator? So you can actually go back and see all the Q&A history for each group or each time you present it using the Q&A feature. And, I think this is a great tool. And I know you've used it a lot, Darren, and we've used it for some of our live streams for the trust as well, haven't we? So yeah. It's from a safeguarding point of view, if you're having to do remote learning or a hybrid approach and you're having to get students to join meets and that sort of thing, it can get a little bit sticky sometimes when you're seeing into their homes. So, doing this feed, using the Q&A feature and live streaming through Meet, for example, is a great way to resolve that. And they're still getting engaged and still asking questions live time within your lessons.
Yeah, and it's really good in person as well. So I've used it before for a whole school parents presentation.
Okay.
Where we've allowed parents to just ask questions during the course of the evening, and we've had somebody monitoring those questions. And then we've got somebody who's monitoring all the questions that have come through. We've got a register of all of those questions. You haven't got any worry of, there was a really good question somebody asked, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But the good thing is you can pick and choose which ones you put on screen. So you do have a level of moderation with it as well. And people can upvote a question as well.
And do you know what the best thing is as well? We're all too quick to say, students shouldn't use phones in schools. And I know this is one of our friend Peter Horner's innovator project, but this is a great way to promote the positive use of a phone in your lesson and in a school environment. Definitely. I personally think we're very quick to say no phones, but actually there's a real positive impact to these phones as well, especially for students that don't want to ask these questions because they're too nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful.
And whether you're in person or whether you're, live through a meet or whatever, there are always going to be students who don't really want to ask questions in front of other people. And if you're doing a chat in a meet, that's in front of other people. Whereas here, they know it's hidden unless you choose to show it. So they can always, they can always ask the question, but just put in brackets, please don't show this on screen or whatever. And that means they've got the confidence to be able to ask the question without the worry of looking, in front of friends as well. So really useful.
And so I always say to students, the only silly question is the one they never asked.
Absolutely.
The likelihood is someone else wants to ask the question, but is also too nervous to do so.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
right, I'm gonna hand the candle back to you, Darren, and let you take for the next bit, if that's all right.
Fantastic. I'll try not to burn myself. Brilliant. So we're still in Google Calendar because we're going to have a little look at digital planning, because it's one of my bugbears that, when I first started teaching 20 years ago, everybody had a planner and we carried it around with us. But in the age of data protection and everything else, paper planners can be quite problematic, because particularly if you've got personal information in there about the students or health information, that's a bit of a worry that we've got to be careful of. So personally, I've moved to digital planning, and this isn't my school account. This is just my own account, but I've just seen a lesson here for tomorrow afternoon, just to really show you how I go about using these, because I would set this up throughout my timetable as a recurring theme. And you can set up repeating appointments every week or every fortnight, depending on your calendar. But all I've got in here is it's just in as an appointment. But what I do within the calendar itself is I use the calendar as my planner. So, for example, if that lesson is going to be in 212, I will make sure I put the room in there. I might choose to add Meet video conferencing if I'm teaching remotely or something like that, but I'm not going to worry at this time. I'm going to get my notification 10 minutes beforehand, which is great. And I've got the generic title up here, 8 MFL French. So what I'm going to do down here is I would put in roughly what I'm going to cover, okay, just in short details. So introduction, I'm going to look at class routines, especially at the moment, and obviously COVID rules and all that kind of thing, because it's my first lesson with the class. I'd obviously make sure I spell things correctly as well. And then I might do a kind of getting to know you, because my year French class haven't actually done French before. They've done Spanish before, but this will be their first lesson of French. We might also do a brainstorm or a mind map of what they know about France. And we might even use, I'm just thinking aloud here at this point. So I'm just planning in Noteful. I might even use a Jamboard collaboratively or something like that. Or if I've got a document reader, I might get them to come and do that. So that really just gives me all this information. But what I can do then is I can add an attachment. So I can come into my drive, or I can upload anything I want to add. So if I particularly want to add a Google slide in there, I can bring that in really easily. I probably haven't got anything at this stage, but anything that's related to French, brilliant. There we go. French week 1. Let's add that welcome message in there. So there's a video in there that I can pop up straight away. I haven't got to go and find it. It's in my calendar. I can also add in there, for example, a homework task or something like that. Now, I haven't got anything particularly to hand here, but I might put the link for the GCSE folder in there. So if I want to grab anything quickly, I can grab that as well. I can also insert a link to anything I want to. So I might want to link, for example, to something like duolingo.com. Okay, and I can put in a little link to that, and that comes in here. Equally, I might decide that there, I want to be a link to Jamboard.com. And then I don't have to worry about clicking all over the place. I can just come back in here. And of course, it's all going to update within my appointment. So if I change anything in here, it's going to update in the appointment. If I change anything in this, it's going to update the appointment. I can change the order of it. I could do whatever I like with it. I could even, add in a Google sheet or whatever and use checkboxes to tick bits off as we're going through. So I would save that as being part of my lesson and being the things that I want to use. And then what I would do at the end of the lesson, I would just open it back up again. I would just, at the bottom here, I would just make a note of what we covered. And then any misconceptions that have popped up, which helps me plan for the following lesson. So I would just have those in there, and then I can just look back and go, right, this is what we covered last time, and this is where we're going next. So the next on the scheme of work or scheme of learning or whatever you want to call it is going to be that, so I know where I'm going with it. And you can just do that all year, and then everything is digital. You've always got it with you. It's nice and secure. You can link your scheme of work to it. You can link your website to it. You can link your homework to it, Google Classroom, whatever you want to do. But it's all there inside Google Calendar, which is absolutely free. But there's another tool that I want to show you as well, which I just, again, came across about a week ago. And that's called Planboard, which I know some people might have used. And I've only been playing around with it for a couple of days, but I really like it. It looks a little bit like Trello, if you've ever used that before. And I've just set up Monday for me. So I've got 2 lessons tomorrow. I've got retail in the morning and I've got French in the afternoon. And I've already here set up my lesson. So I've got my introductions, overview of the timeline, because it's the first lesson in a course. I could do exactly the same as what I did there and decide, do you know what? I think I'm going to make that a link to Jamboard. So let's make that jamboard.com. And if I've already created the Jamboard in advance, I can put the exact URL in if I want to. Okay, so that becomes clickable. So we're going to share positive and negative experiences of customer service. I'm going to introduce the 7 principles of customer service. Now, I might want to do that through a website. So, so I might just type here customer service, and then I could put in here a URL or choose a link from Google maybe, okay, or something else. I can copy one straight in. So I happen to have, for example, customer service. Let me just grab this quickly. There we go. I'm just going to use this Investopedia one, which is going to give them what is customer service. I'm just going to copy that link and I'm going to drop that in there and insert it. So that becomes a link to that. And I've called it Google because I forgot to change it, but it doesn't really matter. And then research homework. You can see down the bottom exactly the same thing. I've added a folder, Retail 2020. I can add specific standards that I'm trying to reach, maybe from my mark scheme. I can add any attachment I like, including videos, anything that I've got saved on my desktop. I can add in from Google Drive, and I can also add in and create an assessment if I'd like to. Okay, I'm not going to do that at the moment. We can add in unit content. We can import stuff and everything else. And then we've got the option, once we've created a lesson, let me just save that first, actually. Here we go. So now we've created a lesson. I can also come to options. I can shift that lesson around. So for some reason, you know, you don't end up teaching that lesson because something happens. Maybe there's a fire alarm and you didn't actually make that lesson. You didn't get through everything you were supposed to because you only had 10 minutes. You can then shift that lesson forward to the next time and move everything with it. You can copy the lesson. You can move it. You can print it as a PDF. You can share it in Classroom. You can share it with other people. You can even have templates and things like that. So you can add in all the sorts of different things you like. And you can do exactly the same. So here's a lesson that I haven't set up. And it's just quite simply apply a template. I haven't set any up yet. Or just add content. And you just get this nice blank canvas where you can add everything you like. And what I really liked about this is when you set up the actual schedule, you've got the option of going by day, week, month, or unit. But in your settings, you can also choose your semester dates. So you can choose the start and the end of your semester. You can choose the days that you work. Okay, so if you're part-time, you can just choose to take some of those off there. Okay. You can also choose what happens with holidays and off days and whether that skips things like you know, weeks off and whether you've got a rotation. This is all part of the free service, okay? So you can add that in there. But equally as well, if we go to the timetable and open that up, you can see that you can schedule in, you can create classes and schedule them. And you can choose your rotation. So whether you have a weekly timetable, a fortnightly timetable, it's entirely up to you. So you can just, if I wanted to put my year 7 class in, okay, I can just choose to add 7x2 somewhere. So that might be on day 2 at 9 a.m., for example. I can choose to add this to day 2 of week 1, let's say 9:30 to 10:30, schedule the class. It's gone in there. Okay, so you can see that that's been scheduled. All right, and you've got unsaved changes there. You can print that off exactly the same as you can previously. You can also, within your subjects, add standards and change your lesson settings as well. So you can decide whether your days off or whether you use letters or days. So Planboard is free. Okay, there are some other aspects like the lesson history and things like that are paid parts of the service, but this is all free. And as you can see, if you go on here to today, here's my first lesson today, here's my second lesson today, here's my calendar for today, which I can hover over, and I've got the option to be able to click on those. I can set myself a task list here, and I've got sticky notes that I can put anytime I like. So a really useful little tool that, I'll be honest, I'm only just finding out about, but I thought it was really useful, and I thought I'd share it with you. Okay, back over to you, Ben.
Cheers, Darren. Just had a great question from Catherine here. Just asking, does this link with your Google Calendar at all?
I think it can link with a classroom. I haven't seen whether it links with Calendar yet, to be honest with you. Like I say, I've only just started playing around with it, but certainly I'm going to be exploring.
It looks like a really intuitive tool. It looks very easy to navigate there, and it looks like there's lots of options there for a free version as well.
Really good.
We have a bit of a motto, you know, if it's free, it's for me.
Absolutely.
Sort of thing. So that's really good. I really like that.
All right, back to you.
Right. I'll take back the torch. Right. So what I'm going to show everyone now is how to use an exit ticket using Google Forms within your class. So this is something that we've been doing as a school through remote learning, and I think it's really worked quite well actually in terms of giving students an opportunity to have their input in the lessons, what they'd like to change, what they enjoyed, what they didn't understand, so we can plan for next lesson or some personalised tuition or help for that student. So it's really something that I personally really like for my lessons. So I'm going to show you how to create one now. So first thing you're going to want to do is go to Google Forms, but I'm going to go through the Drive route to get to Forms today. So I'm going to go to New up here, go to More, and I can go to Google Forms here. So I could create one myself if I want to from scratch and choose your own questions. But I'm a bit lazy in that sense, so I'm going to go across and go to from a template. Because Google Forms has its own template there ready for us to use. So we've got exit ticket already available there. And these are general ones. Your trust may set up some specific ones they want to for your, if you're a school or a multi-academy trust, they might have one they want you to use. But in general, you do have an exit ticket here for your disposal. So if you click on that, it will, in effect, make you a copy for your Google Drive. So at which point you can keep it as exit ticket or keep it, maybe you put exit ticket in your class name. So I'm going to put mine for short and sweet. Okay, and it's fully customized, fully customizable. So you can choose, you can change the text here, what it's asking for. So by standard, it asks for their name and their email. What's one important thing you learned today? Do you feel prepared for today's lessons? Why or why not? And what would help make today's lesson more effective? So those are the ones that are in there by standard. You may want to change these. Like for example, what I'd probably do is I'd turn on the email or collect email addresses, and also send them a receipt. You don't have to, but I'm just going to put it if respondent requests it. So then that eliminates the need to have this email box in there. Obviously, the less we have to get students to fill in at the end of a lesson, the more likely you're going to get to actually get some meaningful feedback in here and meaningful responses. The kids don't always like having to fill lots of things in before they go. So try and keep it as simple and plain to the point as you can. But I might reword the way this is worded here. So I've got what's one important thing you learned or learnt today. I might say Did you feel today? Do you feel prepared for today's lesson? Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And what would help make today's lesson more effective? Or what's one thing you'd like? What is one thing you would improve about today's lesson? Is there anything you struggled with? Just as an example, okay. And what you then do is you'd attach this in your Google Classroom as a file. So I'm going to go to Google Classroom now. Let's put it into the short and sweet one to show you the application of it. So we're going to short and sweet, and then we'll go to Classwork and then create. Let's go. Would you go quiz assignment with this one, Darren, or you go assignment?
I'd just go assignment.
Assignment, I think, yeah. And actually, there is something I've missed on here, actually. If you're going to use this for lots of lessons, it might even be worth asking what the date of the lesson was. So I might add in a question, so you can filter your results by the date. So I'll put in their date, and then they can pick from. I'll put date of lesson. They can pick from which day they had lesson, then you can filter a result. So just whilst you're here as well, you might want to just got to figure out where it's responses there. So go to responses, and we want to create a spreadsheet for this, just so it all pulls through. So I'm just create a new spreadsheet for it. So it links with a spreadsheet. So all the results are then filter into this one spreadsheet, which then you can filter by your date of lesson, etc. So we're going to go back into Classwork. Just put this as exit ticket. Please fill this in before the end of each lesson. And then just add in from Google Drive your exit ticket. And then students will be able to preview and see, they'll be able to go in and see the exit ticket and fill it in each time they finish the lesson. And then you can see what you need to improve or what would help them best for your next lesson. So definitely a positive that we've had at our school is seeing the things that the students need help on, need support in, or struggled with, particularly in class, and that gives us a chance to give personalised feedback and support to that student. And I think that's also really important, to give them personalised feedback. I know we did a session on it, but it really helps the child to feel important, like if you're addressing them by name or trying to do something in specific for them, they feel that you're engaged with them, that you're trying your best to help them, and then you tend to get a better response from them as students and pupils as well. So for us and for me in particular, I've definitely found this really positive to use for students.
Definitely. Really good stuff. That's really good timing actually, Ben, because it's just coming up to 8 o'clock. So yeah, pretty much bang on time. Just time to remind people about next week. So next week we're joined by possibly the most enthusiastic ed tech person I've ever met. From GEGU Amana. She's going to be with us looking at all the fun you can have with Adobe Spark, which is another great free tool. Really useful for things like digital creativity that you'll be working on in that EEL class by the look of it. That's next week. And then the following week, we've got May Dew, who's in charge of all the Google trainers around the world. She's joining us for a special episode all about the Google trainer community and the benefits and everything that comes from that. So 2 really exciting weeks coming up. But I'm looking
forward to it already.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Like we said, and like it says at the bottom there, don't forget, there's the Global GEG staff room. Ben and I will be going along shortly. Pop in and have a chat, make connections, grow your PLN and build up your support network in these difficult times. But it's good night from me.
Good night from me, and I'll see you next week, guys. Take it easy.
Everyone.